Ladies and gentlemen, we have Nick Van Kampen on the line, and for those of you who haven't heard his past episodes, basically, if you have an aeration question, you could just throw it to him, and he spits back an answer faster than Google ever could. So I love talking to this guy. And he shot me an email, which actually provoked me having him back on the podcast. And basically he just said, we're making giant machines. And I'm like, well, what is a giant machine? So anyway, you guys are about to learn that real time while I learn it. And I always like having him on because he deals with customers that are like massive, farm ponds, all the way down to the ponds that we have in our backyards, to natural ponds, to built ponds. And it's just a really cool scope on how big this world of pond construction can be. My name's Justin Skaggs, and this is the Pondcast by Webs Online. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the main man from Scott Aerators here. And Nick, tell me why things are getting bigger over at Scott Aerator.
Definitely. Well, first off, thanks for having me again.
Oh, no problem.
Be back on the Pondcast, always a pleasure. Now, coming around for the season starting up, we've really just taken our existing products that have done fantastic in the past for us, and we've just made them larger, made them bigger and better than before. We've had great success with subsurface aerators, more of a low-key style of aeration, put diffusers at the bottom. And what we've done is we've expanded that now to an extra large version. We call it the Bubble Pro Max XL. And what that entails is going to be 4 of the dual membrane diffusers, along with a larger 3/4 horse compressor. So the reason we're focusing on that now is just to allow larger ponds to still be aerated with a single system. You can cover, depending on depth, up to 3+ acres with one system.
Let me cut you off there real quick. So what was the alternative before?
The alternative before we offered the larger just be doing multiple systems.
So multiple systems running into one another.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Compressors, yeah.
And so basically there was just a set of clientele with a workable solution. But
Definitely.
You decided to go like, hey, well, instead of a workable solution, let's make a unique solution.
Definitely, exactly.
Okay.
We could always cover aerators for these customers, but it would take multiple units, and people don't like running multiple compressors compared to the alternative now, where you can have just one central system running to all these different diffusers.
Awesome. How big of a client is this? Because sometimes, we're talking to people who have 2 turtles and a koi in their backyard.
Yeah.
But, the interesting thing about the Pondcast is, it's not like the stuff that you're using in your koi pond is all that dramatically different in terms of science and application as something somebody's going to use on a massive scale. Yeah. It's just at this point in time, what you're telling me and what we're learning from this conversation is, but can we make it bigger?
Right, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, the science and the idea is the same, but it's going to be the size of it. Now with these larger systems, we're able to aerate fully anywhere from 1/8 of an acre in size all the way up to 3 or 4 acres with one single compressor running to these diffusers. So it really opens the opportunity up for people. Maybe if you don't have as much power supply available, now you only need one system, one outlet to run this entire pond to get it aerated.
Yeah, that's crazy. So tell me a little bit more. Like, what's the max capacity you're trying to deal with, and then describe to me what this kind of pond would look like, because obviously I haven't seen it, and then we're on internet radio right now, so you're gonna have to paint us a beautiful picture. What kind of
definitely.
behemoth needs these sort of machines?
Yeah, well, what's great about it is it's not going to be this big, bulky system either. We're using a 3/4 horsepower compressor, which is really going to fit. We also offer with a compressor cabinet, and that cabinet has that built-in cooling fan to just allow that compressor's lifespan to really be as long as possible. And that cabinet's only going to be about 3 feet long by about 2 feet wide, and that's going to be the whole enclosure. And then coming out of that compressor, you have some self-sinking weighted hoses. So for this larger system, you'll have 4 separate hoses, typically in 100-foot long rolls. And what that will go, it'll sink, right on the bottom, so you're not seeing this eyesore floating on top. And it goes to these different diffusers. Now these diffusers that we're using, they're going to be 2 membranes on each diffuser. So that's going to be about a foot in diameter membrane, which is going to be circular. It sits on this base, and that base of the diffuser is also self-sinking. So you don't have to worry about lugging sand around or weighing it down with any kind of cement. It does it all on its own. So you just position it where you would like and let it sink right to the bottom. But with that whole system, I mean, it's just really compact, so you're not having this big, bulky setup outside by your pond.
Yeah, definitely the hoses would be the way to go, especially like, I mean, again, you're talking about similar science, different application, right?
Exactly.
So let's bring you back to the tiny koi pond. You can have a little diffuser puck and it could just, aerate your pond and it'll do a good enough job.
Exactly.
But could you imagine wiring up 100 of those for something on a farm or something at, I was actually just on vacation, and when I got off the airport in Ecuador, there was about 600 koi.
Oh, wow.
All in this giant pond that went inside and outside. What are you going to put pucks there? You're not putting pucks in there. No, so this is a cool application. And again, it's always interesting to look at the subtle differences. But so what I'm understanding here is you guys basically took that science, kind of re-engineered it, so that who's your target market for these? Like, who are we talking to? Who would need to buy a cabinet, all these hoses, and a 3.5 horsepower compressor?
Yeah, so it's a 3/4 horsepower compressor.
Fair enough.
0.75 horsepower.
Hey, you know what? You gotta correct where you gotta correct. All right, that's fine.
Understood. I would say a big target for this type of system, a lot of agriculture, a lot of farmers who don't want that big display. They're looking more just strictly for the aeration. They know what they want. They want to get the job done without the extra frills, with all the extra water flowing up in the air. They don't need that just for a watering pond for their cattle or whatever it may be. Irrigation ponds are another very popular one, just because, again, you have this system that's very self-contained and it's out of the way. You don't have anchoring lines up above the water, nothing like that. It's all on the bottom. And I would say the last customer that I really see really enjoying these are going to be typical homeowners with larger ponds that want to keep their pond or lake clean, but they want to keep it as natural looking as possible. What's great with these subsurface diffusers now, these subsurface aeration, it really is a natural look. When you look at where those diffusers are placed in the pond, you're going to see some bubbling coming up, no question about it, but you don't see this huge disruption of water.
It's not a big art fountain versus aeration.
Exactly. You're not doing it to catch people's eye. You're doing it to keep your pond clean.
Actually, that's an interesting segue. Let's see if we can have you back, and you guys deal in two different realms, right? Yeah. And let's have you back and just describe maybe from either an economic standpoint and additionally, functionality standpoint, those two separate worlds. And maybe we can make that another episode down the line.
Definitely, I'd love to be it.
Well, I think we covered our bases, unless you got something secret about, some giant other item that you want to run down the rabbit hole on. I think I've answered my questions.
Yeah, no real big secrets there. The science is straightforward. The one big thing though, keep in mind when gauging what size subsurface aerator you'll need, what system you'll use, it's crucial to remember those diffusers, the deeper you put them in your pond, the more coverage area you're going to get. It allows that air to really disperse before it's breaking the surface. So that's important to keep in mind when deciding which system works best for you.
That's a really good tip, and I think we should leave everybody there. Why don't you tell them where they can find you?
Yeah, you can always find all of these great products on our website, scottaerator.com, or you're always welcome to call our office anytime, and we're always here to help. And you can reach us toll free at 800-WATER-45.
800-WATER-45, there it is. Until next time.
Hey, thanks, Justin.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You're always a welcome guest, and we will follow back with that question that I proposed, where you explain the two different angles on like fountain systems versus aeration, and how you guys cope with that internally, and how you kind of divide that up in your own house.
Looking forward to it.
Take care.
You too. Thanks.
As always, I want to thank you guys for joining us on this week's episode. We are going to have Nick back to discuss the question that we started going down, and I decided, maybe this should be another episode where we start to decide what are the differences between aeration and fountains, what's the merging of that Venn diagram. When are you going to get yourself in trouble by going too much into the fountain realm and not into the aeration realm? We'll get into all that later. If you guys have any questions, I want you guys just to go to websonline.com or give us a call. The number's right there. Till next time, take care and enjoy your pond.